Good evening and welcome to the July 14th Falls Township Zoning Hearing Board. If everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, just some minor introductions. To my right is the Zoning Hearing Board Solicitor Cliff Bidleymeyer. From the Township, we have Matt Takita and Ed Neubauer on Zoom, and Diane Barry. Court stenographer for tonight is Karen Browndorf. So moving forward, petition number 1, Flagship Pennsylvania OPCO LLC, 547 West Trenton Avenue, Morrisville, PA 19067, tax map parcel 13028028002, zoned HC, requesting the following variances to allow a car wash that is permitted by conditional use from section 20923E 8B2 to permit 179 feet of stacking distance lane length with capacity for 7 vehicles rather than the required 220 feet of stacking distance lane length with stacking for 10 vehicles. Section 20934E to permit accessory structures including vacuums, a producer, a mat cleaner to be located within the front yard setback. Section 20942H21 to permit each of the 3 access lanes for the car wash entrance to have stacking capacity for 7 vehicles rather than the required 12 vehicles, and to permit the vehicle tunnel entrance to be located at the front of the building rather than the rear of the building. Section 20942I to permit no loading area for the car wash. Section 20950G3A to permit car wash activities including vacuums, pay stations, a mat cleaner, and any other activity to not be located within an enclosed building. And section 20977B to permit applicant if the dimensional zoning relief is granted by the Zoning Hearing Board 2 years from the date of the zoning decision to obtain a building permit rather than the maximum permitted 1 year. How you doing, Julie?
Doing well. Good evening.
Good evening.
I do. Handing up the affidavit of service notice to the abutting landowners.
Perfect.
Mark these for today's purposes. Gotcha. I'm going to mark these for today's purposes as A1. These have been provided to me by email earlier today. I've reviewed them. They appear to be appropriate with the date of the meeting as well as the address of the meeting for today's purposes. Mr. Chairman, I also have some exhibits I would like to mark for the hearing, or for the application. As ZHB1, application for zoning ordinance appeal along with accompanying hardship letter. ZHB2, the deed. ZHB3, the site plan. ZHB4, impervious calculation sheet. ZHB5, proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier Times. ZHB6, proof of posting of the property. ZHB7, notice to applicant of tonight's hearing. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied the appropriate notices have been satisfied and this matter can proceed.
So moved. You may begin, Julie.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Julie Von Sprekelson from the law firm of Eastburn & Gray here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Flagship Pennsylvania OPCO LLC, which is the lessee of the property located at 547 West Trenton Avenue. That property, as mentioned earlier, is in the HC Highway Commercial District, and it comprises approximately 3.155 acres. Up on the screen right now, I have what is tab 3 in the exhibit booklet that I took the liberty of previously distributing to the board members. It's an aerial photograph of existing conditions, and I just want to highlight some of the unique physical conditions of the property, which includes its highly irregular shape. It's the building in the middle between the Wawa to the north and then the building to the south, which was the former fly-through Wawa. So that building, as you can see, has a that whole property is uniquely shaped. And it has 2 frontages, one on Pine Grove Road and the other on West Trenton Avenue. So even though it has 2 frontages, because of its unique, strange shape, and both of those frontages, those are signalized entrances and exits to the site. It's not a corner lot. So it's not your true corner lot that you think of when you have two frontages. This has a frontage on either side of the property, so it's very unique in that manner. It also contains a shuttered Rite Aid pharmacy with drive-through, and this development was originally part of one property, and it was a 3-lot subdivision, and that's when the Wawa to the north was developed and the Wawa fly-through to the south was developed along with the Rite Aid building. And so as you can see, there's cross-access easements between all of the properties. So this property is fully developed. And there's also stormwater management facilities, some landscaping as well. So what we're proposing, I'll just give a brief overview before we get into the testimony, but what we're proposing is to repurpose the interior of that building. And that building is 14,611 square feet, and we're going to reuse it as an environmentally friendly, state-of-the-art modern car wash. And it will have wet and dry belts. There's 11 parking spaces proposed and 12 vacuum spaces. The remainder of the lot pretty much is going to remain as is. We'll get into this in testimony. We're adding some outdoor vacuums and some pay stations, but the main development in terms of cross-access and such is all remaining the same. So as mentioned, the car wash use is permitted by conditional use, and when we originally submitted this zoning application, we also submitted a conditional use application. We put that application on hold as we proceeded through the zoning process. So in addition to that, just to let you know some background on this, we did have a staff meeting with Township staff and discuss the project. We also then originally submitted our original application, which was on February 25th, 2026. After we submitted that application, we received review comments from the Township engineer for a sketch plan that we had also submitted. So based on the Township engineer's review letter comments, we revised the plan and to come into compliance with his review letter and then portions of his review letter, and then we asked for additional zoning relief where needed, which is the application that is before you tonight, and we're requesting the relief that your chair has read into the record. With that, I'm just going to run through my exhibit booklet that I took the liberty of distributing. Tab 1 of the exhibit booklet is the deed to the property. Tab 2 is the redacted ground lease agreement between Morrisville Realty LLC, which is the landlord, and Flagship Pennsylvania OPCO LLC, which is the tenant. Tab 3 is an aerial photograph of existing property conditions and an aerial photograph of proposed property conditions prepared by BL Companies dated July 14, 2026. Tab 4 is the CV of Kestra Kelly. She's a professional engineer with BL Companies. Tab 5 is a rendered site plan and an amended zoning plan prepared by BL Companies dated April 14, 2026, and last revised May 14, 2026. Tab 6 is an amended architectural site plan, amended proposed floor plan, and amended exterior elevations prepared by BL Companies dated June 5, 2026. So with that background, I would call my first witness, Kestra Kelly.
Could you state your name and spell it, please?
Hi, Kestra Kelly, Kestra, last name's Kelly, Kelly.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Kestra, what is your profession?
Excuse me, can you use the second microphone? There's a microphone at the top of the podium.
The second
Okay.
microphone.
We need to switch it on.
Okay, hold on, I gotta figure out how to hold all
Or
That's
this.
the
do you want
voice
to
for
use
the
this
sky.
and you want me to use that? Either way is fine.
Maybe just so. if
Whatever's
I-
easiest for you.
Since I'm gonna wanna point,
Sure.
so I'm not sure that's on.
Kestra, what is your profession?
I'm a civil engineer.
And how many years have you been a civil engineer?
Over 25.
And are you licensed?
I am, I'm a professional engineer.
And how many years have you been a licensed professional engineer?
Around 21.
And what is your place of business?
BL Companies.
And what is the business address?
My location is 555 Croton Road, Suite 310 in King of Prussia.
And briefly, what's your educational background?
I have a civil engineering degree from Virginia Tech.
And your professional background?
I have worked at BL Companies for over 11 years. Previous to that, other consulting engineering firms, but really focusing on overall land development. So,
Julie,
design.
we'll accept her license as profession.
Okay, wonderful,
you.
thank you. I just want to note her CV is tab 4 of the exhibit booklet. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay. Kestra, was BL Companies engaged by the applicant with regard to this project?
Yes.
And what was the scope of that engagement?
Generally, some initial due diligence, zoning analysis, development of zoning plans, conditional use analysis and plans, obviously the zoning hearing board application in front of you, and, assuming we move forward, design and permitting.
And you met with township staff, correct?
We did. We had a pre-application meeting where we went through before we submitted the sketch plan, and then we also met with them virtually when we got comments on the initial sketch plan.
And then after those comments for the sketch plan, we then amended our zoning application, correct?
That is correct.
And that's the application that's before the board this evening.
Yes.
Okay, can you please, using tab 3 of the exhibit booklet, which is the aerial photograph of existing property conditions, can you run through the existing conditions for us?
Sure. As you mentioned earlier, the site is at 547 West Trenton Avenue. It is the existing vacant Rite Aid building. There's Pine Grove Road to the east and West Trenton Avenue to the west. It's a roughly 3.15 acres in site, located in the Highway Commercial District. It does have several existing connection points and cross-access connections to both the existing Wawa and the now vacant Wawa flyover. The site, as you mentioned, is irregular in shape. It has 2 front lots along the 2 frontages I just discussed. It has existing stormwater management. There's a drive-through associated with the existing Rite Aid, parking, lighting, trash enclosure, stormwater management, landscaping, and lighting.
Okay, and the building itself, how large is that building?
It's a little over 14,600 square feet.
And that's a shuttered Rite Aid pharmacy building, correct?
It is.
Okay. Can you please describe the neighboring zoning and land uses?
Sure. Most immediately adjacent to the site is residential apartment buildings, Wellington Woods. There is a combination of apartments, residential, and commercial across from Pine Grove Road. And then across West Trenton, there is single-family residential.
And along the property line to the southwest, where you mentioned that the apartments are, that's heavily buffered as shown on Exhibit A3, is that correct?
Yes, there's existing wood line along that property line that straddles both on the site and off-site, and as well as a wooded buffer on the east of Pine Grove Road.
And is there a buffer also across West Trenton Avenue?
Yes, there is.
Okay, so let's move on to the rendered site plan. And this is tab 5 of the exhibit booklet, and I would ask that you describe the proposed development.
We are looking to adaptively reuse this existing Rite Aid building. So the building itself, the footprint would remain. The only demo would be the drive-through structure associated with it. So when we look at these sites, we try to take a lot of care to work within the previous developed site. We're not trying to increase impervious. We're not trying to expand the limits of the site. But we have the flexibility to try our best to work with what we have. So I think the best would be for me to just walk through the site and how we anticipate it would work. So people could enter into any of the existing access points where we're not proposing any changes. So off of Pine Grove Road, they could enter in off of West Trenton Avenue. They could also circulate on the site through the cross-access easements from Wawa and the Wawa flyover. Customers would enter the site and they would enter into the pay station lanes. We are proposing 3 pay stations. This is where customers stop by their car wash. There will be an employee there. There is no speaker, there's no music, there's no noise that those pay stations generate. All the purchases for car wash is done at that point. There's no reason for a customer to park their car and walk into the building. There's nothing that's for sale, no air fresheners or anything. All of it's done at that point of sale. Cars would then come out of the pay station, circulate around, enter into the wet belt, which is customer stays in the car. That's a traditional wet wash of your car where they clean the exterior. At that point, the cars can leave, and they can even leave the site. They can leave the site, they can leave the wet wash, circle back on, enter into this lane where they can go to one of the vacuum spaces.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but when you say this lane, can you identify it better on the plan for us?
So this top lane, so that cars would come here, take right, circle back on site, stay on site, and enter into this lane. Sorry, I'm a little rusty with this pointer, but at the top lane on your site, and then they'd be enter into the vacuum spaces. This is where the customer would park their car, self-vacuum out their car. There'd be an employee in that area that would just be helping, but no employees are doing any of the cleaning in that area. If the customer has chosen at the pay stations to get a detail wash, after they leave the wet wash, they circle back in and they enter this middle queue lane where they circulate back around and then they enter the building again at this point. This is where they would enter one of 2 dry belts. They pull into the building, the customer gets out of the car, they go to an interior waiting area, the employees put the car on a conveyor belt and they clean out the inside of the car. Vacuum, wipe it out. And then the customers would leave the site from there. All the decision is done at the pay station. So it's not like after you get your wet wash, you have to decide which I want to do. You know what your plan is because that's what you pay for at the station, at the pay station. We are proposing 3 lanes to the pay stations. They're each 179 feet.
If you want to turn to the zoning plan to go through that, it might be easier. This is also tab 5 of the exhibit booklet. It's sheet 2.
So this plan shows some representative cars in these areas for stacking and queuing. So these 3 lanes to the pay stations are the 179 feet I just mentioned. We are proposing 11 employee spaces, which is a combination of spaces along the building at the bottom here, and then within this area here. We are proposing 12 vacuum spaces, which would be all located in this area here. We are proposing a trash enclosure, which is essentially at the same location it is today. Within the vacuum spaces, we also have some accessory structures of the producer pad, which is really that houses the motor of the vacuums, and then also a mat cleaner, which is where the customers can take their mats out of their car, feed it through the cleaner, and it will wash that.
Okay, and is a loading area proposed?
No.
All right. And given that this is a fully developed site and fully constructed building, does it comply with the square footage requirements, the front, rear, side yard, and street setbacks, and building height?
That is correct. All of that is in compliance.
And is the impervious coverage and building coverage also in compliance with the zoning ordinance?
Correct.
Okay. And I believe you went through the other improvements. Just want to make sure you hit everything. There's landscaping. You discussed the landscaping and the buffering along the property lines.
Yes, there's existing landscaping, buffering, as I mentioned. Also, like I said, we took a lot of care to not expand the impervious out towards the property lines at all. So we're working within the existing curb lines or into the site.
Okay, so turning to tab 6 of the exhibit booklet, those are the amended architectural site plan, floor plan, and exterior elevations. Can you run through those exhibits for us, please?
So this is a architectural site plan, which you see here, which essentially shows the same background of our site plan. The next page is the proposed floor plan, which really just gets into more detail of how the interior of the building will work. At this point, it's important that we have an idea of how the internal building will work to make sure that we can make the site function with it, and we have adequate turning movements in and out of the building. So just, very basic, these are the two dry belts I talk about. This is the wet belt. What you're seeing is all the equipment to make the car wash work. This is a corridor for offices and staff. And then down here, you would have the interior waiting room as well. And then the final page is elevations. So this is aesthetically what the exterior of the building would look like. This is consistent with Flagship's overall aesthetic and branding.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to the zoning relief that we're requesting.
Do you want to put the colored site plan up?
Whichever's going to be easiest with stacking to show the number of those cars and such.
Okay, I'll go
Probably
with this.
the other zoning plan. All right, referring to the zoning plan, black and white zoning plan, tab 5 of the exhibit booklet. Now, 2 of the provisions that we're seeking relief from both deal with stacking, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the first provision is section 209-23.E8B2, and that's for accessory drive-through facilities, and that's stacking distance. And what we're asking is to permit 179 feet of stacking distance length and capacity for 7 vehicles rather than the required minimum length of 220 feet with capacity for 10 vehicles. And then the second provision, which is similar but somewhat different, is section 209-42H21, minimum off-street parking for a car wash, and that's to permit each of 3 access lanes for the car wash entrance to have stacking for 7 vehicles rather than the required 12.
That is correct.
So those 2 provisions are slightly different, correct?
Correct. They have different requirements.
And can you explain what those requirements are and then what we're proposing in terms of the stacking?
Sure. So it basically talks to the stacking required. And one talks about 1 lane of a certain distance for a certain number of cars. The other talks about multiple lanes. I think that the intent of those, why they are slightly in conflict with each other, I think the intent is meant to make sure that there's adequate stacking on site. One of the concerns with a car wash is you want to make sure that there's never going to be stacking out onto the public roadways. So one thing to note is the distances that I talked about are stacking that I'm showing in this area here. And that is measured after the connection to this common access drive. So this is an access drive that goes around the site, that loops from the Wawa through the site to connecting into the parcel with the Wawa flyover, and then ultimately out of the site. So even if there was cars that exceeded the stacking in the designated lanes, they would not be stacking out onto the public roadway. They would maintain on site within that access drive.
And then additionally, so I see that the stacking there from the pay station down to the entrance there, that's the 7 vehicles, correct, per lane?
Yes, to the pay stations.
to the pay stations, but then after the pay stations, after you go through the pay stations, there's additional stacking, correct, until you get into the belt?
That is correct. Typically, when we look at the queuing created by the car wash, it's at the entrance to the wet tunnel.
But there is room for additional cars.
There are
Correct.
additional cars and room for stacking, correct?
And how many additional cars in that location?
4.
So there's 4 additional cars there, and then how many cars can fit within the building itself?
Roughly on this length of a wet belt, between 4 and 5.
Okay. So there's, from what you're testifying to, there certainly is additional stacking being proposed after the pay stations, correct?
Correct. The stacking, as we outlined with the dimension to the pay station, we believe is reflecting how the ordinance wants it to be measured. But as I mentioned, the reality is the queuing really starts at the entrance to the wet tunnel. We have worked on several of these other flagship car washes for Spotless, specifically converting vacant Rite Aids into car washes. And in one of the first ones that we did a very detailed queue analysis. So Spotless has several car washes, mainly in the Virginia, Maryland, DC, that have been open and operational. So they hired TPD, who's the traffic consultant, to go study the real-world operations of these car washes. So we're not even using like hypothetical data from ITE or anything like that. This is real world. So they went out, they counted 4 existing fully operational car washes in the Washington, DC area. These were the same configuration of car wash, meaning 1 wet and 2 dry belts. And so based on that, we have actual data for the amount of queuing that could be expected. So for the average weekday peak, which is a 3 to 7 o'clock in the afternoon, the average queue is 10 cars. On the Saturday midday, which is the busiest time for a car wash, so the midday is kind of considered between 10 and 3, the average queue is 16. At the absolute max queue that was observed during this time was 20 cars. The stacking we have within the pay station lanes exceeds that.
And then in addition, as we mentioned, there's additional room after you leave the pay stations and while they're within the actual building itself, correct?
Correct.
And you talked about that, that analysis that TPD had conducted. You also work on a number of flagship car washes in the area, correct?
I do.
And is that analysis consistent with the other car washes in this area?
It is, for the configuration of it being 1 wet tunnel and 2 dry.
Okay, and you also mentioned that there is significant distance from the end of the stacking area out to West Trenton. Is that correct? Did you measure how much additional area?
I don't have the dimensions, but it's, yes, there's significant amount of length on site. It exceeds over 100 feet from the exits or the entrance to where the lanes start for the pay stations. There's still sufficient distance to get to the right-of-way for both West Trenton and Pine Grove Road.
And so in your professional opinion as an expert in civil engineering, will providing a stacking distance lane length of 179 feet and stacking for 7 vehicles per lane in any way be detrimental to the public welfare?
No.
Will it result in any type of adverse stacking issues or cars bleeding out onto either of the 2 abutting roadways?
No, because in addition to the stacking that we've outlined, there's additional capacity on site for cars to stack before they get anywhere close to the public right-of-way. Additionally, Spotless does a good job of training their staff to make sure they have the ability to help manage traffic on site. So one thing that I didn't mention is that after the pay stations, there is what we call an escape lane. So there's the ability for cars, if they go up to the pay station and for some reason they can't go through the wet tunnel. The two examples I like to use is you forget you had a bike on the top of your car, right? Or you have a pickup truck full of stuff and they say, hey, you can't go through here. There's an escape lane, meaning the employees can simply just direct them on to exit without the need to back up, without the need to interrupt anybody in the queue lane. So they take a lot of care to train their staff on how to manage the circulation of traffic to ensure that those situations would never occur.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to the variance from section 209-42H21, and that's minimum off-street parking for the car wash. And this particular provision, the relief that we're requesting is to permit the vehicle tunnel entrance to be located at the front of the building rather than the rear of the building. So can you please explain the location of the tunnel entrances in relation to the property layout and street frontages?
Sure. The requirement says that all vehicle entrances shall be from the rear of the building. Honestly, that's not entirely clear what that is intended to be. You know, what is the rear of the building? We made the assumption that the front of the building is what faces the front yard or the front street. So in this case, we have two frontages. We have it along West Trenton Avenue and Pine Grove Road. Also, the requirement's interesting because it talks about the entrance and not the exit, and you kind of have to go in one side and come out the other side. So regardless of whether, you know, it's the front or not, we are reusing this existing building. And the way that the car wash operations need to be is they need the length of the building. They can't enter, you know, on this plan like top to bottom. It has to be side to side. So all the cars are entering on this side of the building, and all the cars are exiting on this side of the building.
And when you say this side and this side, can you just describe it for the record?
Sure, sorry, I was pointing. So all the cars are entering on the east side of the building, and they're all exiting on the left side of the building. And the beauty of that is there's no cross traffic. So in some sites, we don't always have the ability to continue those consistent movements, and you may have cars leaving the wet tunnel, taking a left that has to cross the exit of the dry tunnel. In this case, we don't. We have consistent circulation without having to have the ability to have crossing traffic.
Okay, and so given that this is an existing, fully developed site with a building that you're reusing, and the way that building and site improvements are oriented, is it even possible to locate the tunnel entrance at the rear of the building?
No, especially if we assume that the rear of the building is the rear of the site and we don't have a rear site.
Okay.
Additionally, even if we didn't want to reuse the building and we wanted to tear it down, which would create more disturbance, it would create more waste. But even if we wanted to do that, just the shape of the site itself doesn't lend itself to orient the building differently. So even if we wanted to not reuse the building, I don't think it would be possible to meet that requirement.
And if you did demolish it, first of all, would it be feasible to demolish this building and then construct a new building for this site that's already fully developed?
I think it would be feasible. I don't know if it would be cost allowable. So again, reusing the building is an effective strategy to make projects like this viable. Spotless puts a lot of money into their sites, and having to completely rebuild a building adds to that. There's also the reality that there are a lot of these vacant Rite Aid buildings, and they are a unique size that a lot of retailers right now are not banging down the door to go into. And so it makes for a really good opportunity to reuse what would otherwise stay as a vacant building for a viable use.
And if the building was demolished and you realigned it in such a way, would there be likelihood that additional variances, other variances would be required?
I believe so, because the unique aspect of this site has to do with all of the cross-access easement. So because this was a parcel that then got subdivided, there's so much shared access between this parcel, the Wawa parcel, and the old vacant Wawa fly-through. So we had to maintain all of those access points, which again limits where you could put a building.
Okay, let's move on to the next variance. That's from section 209-34.E, that's accessory building structures and or users. And this is to permit accessory structures, including vacuums, a producer, and a mat cleaner to be located within the front yard. So if you could turn to sheet 2 of tab 3 of the exhibit booklet, which is the aerial photo of proposed conditions. Go back to, there should be a second sheet there. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yep, okay.
Okay, you have it up there. Okay, can you start up by telling us what the width of the front yard measured from Pine Grove Road is?
Yep, I have that, hold on. So currently, there is a 43-foot dimension from the right-of-way of Pine Grove Road to any impervious surfaces, which is the existing parking. That's 43 feet today, and we're proposing to maintain that at 43 feet. Again, I mentioned we're taking great care not to encroach any closer or expand the impervious in any way. So we're basically holding that row of parking that exists today and just converting it to vacuums.
Okay, and what is the building setback distance from Pine Grove?
100 feet.
And what is the distance that the vacuums that you're referencing are setback from Pine Grove Road?
43 feet.
And what is the distance the producer is setback from Pine Grove Road?
94 feet.
And what is the distance the mat cleaner is setback from Pine Grove Road?
43 feet.
And is that all shown on this exhibit, tab 3?
Correct.
Okay. And why do those accessory structures need to be located in the front yard?
Well, again, we don't have a rear yard, so accessory structures are permitted in side and rear yards. And based on, again, the same items I've outlined in terms of the unique site characterization, the access points, the need to maintain the cross-access, as well as the fact that we're reusing the existing building, the only area left that is outside is within that front yard.
Okay. And is there dense buffering, again, across Pine Grove Road located along the frontage of the Planet Fitness and the Alexandria Apartments?
There's very mature landscape buffer.
And is there also buffer along the southwest property line buffering the Wellington Woods Apartments?
Yes.
And what are the hours of operation of this car wash?
Car wash is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. Typically in the winter, they'll close earlier around 6 o'clock, just when it gets dark. Not a lot of people wash their cars.
Okay, so in your professional opinion, will the location of the accessory structures in the front yard, as discussed, alter the essential character of the neighborhood, impair the appropriate use of adjacent property, or be detrimental to the public welfare?
No. Again, it's all located within the area that's existing parking today.
Okay. Let's move on to the variance from section 209-50G3A, which is additional standards car wash. And this is to permit car wash activities, which we have identified as vacuuming, pay stations, and a mat cleaner to not be located within an enclosed building. Can you please describe those car wash activities that are not located within the building?
Yes. So again, it wasn't entirely clear what was constituted car wash activities. So out of an abundance of caution, we just asked for all of the items being proposed, which again would be the pay stations themselves, the mat cleaner, the vacuum spaces, and then the producer. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the producer is really the motor of the vacuums. So it's one motor that controls all the vacuums. It has to be located in close proximity to the vacuums itself. So in this case, we asked for relief from all of those items. They are not enclosed within a building, partly again due to the ability for the site to function. So there's cross-access. We had to maintain this common access point at the northeast corner to Wawa, as well as the access road that I'll say that loops from Wawa towards West Trenton all the way to Pine Grove. So based on those site constraints and that common access, we couldn't put a building there to block that.
And you mentioned, I believe, earlier that the pay stations themselves do not have any speaker systems associated with it, so there's no noise at all generated from that, correct?
That is correct.
And again, you talked about the dense buffering along the abutting properties, or across Pine Grove Road, and then the abutting property to the southeast, correct?
Correct.
And would you say the roadway noise along Pine Grove Road and other ambient noise in the area would be louder than the noise from the car wash activities not located within the enclosed building?
Yes.
And would enclosing those activities in a building require additional variances from setback provisions of the zoning ordinance?
Yes, I think it would require a building setback variance and likely a building coverage variance.
Okay. And in your professional opinion, not enclosing these car wash activities as discussed, would that alter the essential character of the neighborhood, impair the appropriate use of adjacent property, or be detrimental to the public welfare?
No.
Okay, moving on to variance from section 209-42I, it's minimum off-street loading. No loading areas being provided for this car wash, correct?
That is correct.
And why is that?
Really, it's not needed. So typically loading would be if you had a large vehicle bringing large amount of equipment on site, which is not what's going to happen. The only deliveries that they get are usually cleaning detergents, towels. It comes in small box trucks around the size of like an Amazon van. The employees are very well accommodated on how to facilitate ordering and getting these deliveries during off-peak hours. They can unload quickly and get it into the car without any negative impact to car wash operations. So this is something that we have been not providing on most of our car washes because it's really not needed. And in any ways, when we have to do it, it adds more impervious, it adds more disturbance for really no net benefit.
So it could cause additional zoning relief if it had to be implemented.
Added to the plan,
Yeah.
yes, that's correct. And again, like I mentioned, we really work hard to work within these existing developed sites. And, you know, we wouldn't want to have to disturb some of the existing vegetation on site that's already been stabilized to add in more impervious cover.
All right, great. Moving on to the last variance. This is from section 209-77B. And this is to allow applicant, if we're fortunate enough to receive the zoning relief this evening, to have 2 years to obtain a building permit rather than the maximum permitted 1 year. And can you explain why we're requesting that variance?
In my experience, we need more time to get all the required permits that are needed. As we discussed, we know we need to get conditional use. We either need to get a waiver of land development or go through the land development process. We'll need at least an E&S permit through the Conservation District. We know we need PADEP approval for sewer planning, and that's just to name some of them. So in my experience, as much as our clients would probably like us to say everything can get done in a year, it's just not going to be feasible.
Okay, and in your professional opinion, will the dimensional variances that we're requesting this evening, if granted, alter the character of the neighborhood or in any way be detrimental to the public welfare?
No.
And in your professional opinion, are the variances requested the minimum variances that will afford relief, and do they represent the least modification possible of the regulations in issue?
Yes.
That's all I have of this witness.
Thank you. Just some questions. I'm struggling a little bit with the circulation of the car wash.
Sure.
So you come in off of West Trenton Avenue, you go into the stacking lane, then you hit the wet tunnel, then you come back, make the right, go back into the stacking lanes, which could be backed up at times, and then come back around the building into the dry tunnel. Why couldn't they come through the wet tunnel, make the left, and then go through the dry tunnel and exit out to either Pine Grove or through that shared access where Wawa is. It just seems like
You
cross-
lost me at the last part, sorry. You're saying, why couldn't they come out the wet tunnel
make
and
the
then?
left and then go back into the dry tunnel,
Well, there's.
heading towards Pine Grove.
Sure, okay, understood now, I think. A couple reasons. One is generally, if they did that, there would not be additional queuing length for the queue into the dry belts. That would be within the access drive itself. The other comment that we had received from the township engineer, and we've received this elsewhere, is it's better if there's not as much crossing traffic. So you don't want the people coming out of the wet tunnel to always have to cross the entrance or exits to the dry tunnel. So this allows people to, if they're going through the car wash in both the wet tunnel and dry tunnel, to kind of make a continuous clockwise movement.
But they're hitting the cross traffic for the vehicles coming into the stacking lanes. And that's more traffic flow to me than it would be coming out of the optional dry tunnel itself. Because that's where all the vehicle access is coming into the stacking lanes.
But there's separate lane for the,
But you're
for the dry.
crossing the queuing lanes for the entrance of the car wash.
I think you're saying, like, in this point, or like this area, it doesn't get too clear. Like this, can you see my cursor at this point?
Do you want to use maybe if you use the zoning plan?
The wet
It's a little
tunnel,
clearer.
they're gonna cross over the main entrance, the only entrance to the car wash to pay, where all the vehicle traffic is coming in. So it would make sense to me to make that left out of the wet tunnel to go back into the dry tunnel, because there's no cross traffic there.
And I think what you're also proposing is that the dry tunnels go the other way.
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, yes, they're gonna flow towards Pine Grove Road, yep. Because then there's no cross traffic at all. These vehicles are coming out of the wet, and then they're gonna cross over where all the vehicles, you can see almost the rendering is an accident, because the vehicle's crossing over the exit onto West Trenton. It's in the other lane, the way the rendering's set up. The red car, that's in the wrong lane.
Let me just look at what you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So I understand your point. I think that, the cars coming from the wet tunnel would be making a right. The cars that are coming in would be turning in as well. So it's definitely an area of merge. I would call it an area of merge more than I would say true crossing traffic. We did look at this site in several different configurations, and we felt like this configuration created the least amount of conflict points. So at this point, you're going to be coming out of the wet tunnel, turning right. You're going to be turning right back into
The most conflict point, where the cars are entering, in my opinion. If they're backed up, they won't be able to get to that dry tunnel entrance.
I understand your concern. We do not believe, and we feel like the data proves that there will not be cars stacked up to that point to limit access to the dry belt queue or the bypass lane to the vacuum spaces. As well, as I mentioned, the employees on site will not let that happen. If for some reason there is queues, they will stop cars so that it's not going to create a gridlock situation.
Okay.
And there also wouldn't be stacking going back in. If you're coming out and making immediate turn in to the dry belts, there wouldn't be any stacking area. So we still need stacking area to go into that.
I just see a problem with that stacking area where they're paying, getting backed up, and then vehicles can't move anywhere. They can't get to that dry tunnel because the vehicles will back up in that stacking lane. But it's just my opinion.
And I hear you, and I understand, and I think that's a valid concern, but I think we believe that based on the data we know and how the car wash will operate, that is not going to occur.
Okay.
So the other sites that you have the data from, you said that they were configured the same way. I'm actually just adding on to this, so hopefully helpful. They're configured the same way, 1 wet and 2 dry.
So
I think that's what you said.
that's correct. They're
Is the
same-
rest of the looping and the kind of lane management also the same as what's here?
No,
To
not
Bob's
exactly
point?
the same. So
Okay.
each site is unique, right? The building can be a little bit more cookie cutter. These Rite Aid buildings were more consistent. The site is the unique factor. So that's what makes my job fun and challenging.
Right.
But the concept and the intent of what we're trying to do is consistent, and that is the approach. It's important for Spotless to have the time from when a car leaves the wet wash before it enters into the dry belts. That helps with the on-site management of the time. So that having that extra length and that queue stacking is an important operation. In sites that they don't have that, they have experienced more issues and concerns. But the general intent of everybody leaving the building and being able to go consistent ways and not having that crossing traffic is something that all of those sites is an important component that we maintain on the sites.
And didn't you mention that there were some sites where there's actually conflicting traffic as you're coming out of the wet and the dry belts?
There are. So there's sites, in my opinion, that are not as good of a design as this site. Again, that was created for various reasons. There's also sites that don't have as much stacking. And there's sites that don't have the queue from the wet to the dry, and that does cause problems.
Will there be staff in that shared access lane that goes from Wawa out to Pine Grove Road? Will there be staff there to assist with traffic flow there as well? I can foresee issues with cars that are exiting, because that's a primary exit from Wawa out on the Pine Grove. I can see backups occurring there with cars coming out of the, yes, right in there, with cars coming out of your vacuums and cars trying to exit the property at the same time.
Okay, yes, so typically there is an employee at the pay stations. There are at least one employee at the entrance of the vacuum, or the wet tunnel, and there's at least one employee at all times in the vacuum areas to make sure that no customers needs any help and to maintain that traffic flow.
Okay.
So this is, I mean, I think you're hearing all of our concerns are
Sure.
about like, drivers are going to do crazy stuff. They're going to come from Wawa. They're going to come in the back door in this in this back lane here, and then not know where to go. So it's really about signage, probably signage and marking, and to have the traffic flow. And I know some of the elevations here are about the building, but I guess
Sure,
can you
there-
speak to what kind of in the existing sites, what kind of signage and other kind of traffic
Yes.
assistance there is beside, I mean, people are great, but still, even if there's somebody out there.
Sure, there can be some drivers that don't always pay attention, but again, we're used to that, and we think that part of the circulation of the continuous right turns and clockwise direction helps with that. But 100%, we've been able to maintain the access. So if somebody from Wawa is used to sliding through that parking lot now, which I know they're doing, they still have that ability. They're still going to have that connection. There's not going to be anything that interferes with that. They're going to still be able to make that same maneuver, through the vacuums. I think there may be some point of self-regulating where people are zipping through now because it's the shortest, quickest point. Eventually, they may just continue to go around the access drive if they don't want to have to slow down if somebody's, backing out. But that's going to be maintained and open. So we do a different signage of both pavement markings and, regular signs. Spotless also has a lot of just, cones and manual signs that they can move around to help facilitate. So especially if once the car wash opens, there'll probably be a certain amount of signage that happens to help customers and Wawa customers kind of learn the new flow paths, and then it gets figured out. There's not going to be a situation that like a car is going to be able to come in and like enter into the building, you know, without access. The escape lane itself, which is the point, which is right here, which we're showing as striping, that will probably have some movable physical barriers, whether it be cones or, you know, the little sawhorses or something to show that can easily be moved if somebody needs to use that escape lane, but will be a visual deterrent from somebody that thinks they can just like zip on in or something like that. Because the reality is the escape lanes are not used that often. It's really just a good to have in case that situation occurs, but it's not a regular type of circulation pattern.
And I just want to add that I think a lot of these questions are going to be addressed further along in the process because this is a conditional use. So we do have to go through the conditional use process. And I think a lot of the circulation is going to be discussed at that time. And I think that's, you know, where it's more relevant than what the relief is we're requesting here. It really has more to do with use.
So I had a different question. Following up on noise, you talked about road noise on Pine Grove Road and having the vacuums out there and the amount of distance between the apartments and the vacuums, and you know, so many 100 feet, and that there's lots of trees there. That's great. Do you have any data about what the sort of decibel level is with 3, 4, 5 vacuums running at the particular pitch frequency that they're at, which is different from road noise?
Sure, absolutely. So there's different types of equipment that Spotless can use to put on the site. So we haven't done like a detailed analysis of the ultimate equipment that will be put on the site. But we understand that, you know, noise will be a factor, and that's going to be probably addressed during conditional use. But we understand the importance of that. The producer is like the central motor for all the vacuums. So it's not like if 2 people are vacuuming their car versus 5 people, there's some other difference there. So it's not each one has its own motor or noise generation. Additionally, the producer pad, which is the motor, can be enclosed in like a concrete structure, which dramatically cuts down on any of the noise. And that's something that the applicant would do.
Great, thanks.
How many vacuums are proposed?
I believe 12.
12. Okay. Any other questions from the board at this time? Is that all you guys have?
Can I have just 2 minutes?
Sure.
Thank you. Yes, I think that's all we have this evening.
Okay. Any public comment at this time? Come on up, sir.
I have a few things to say.
Sure. If you can, just please come to the microphone and state your name for the record to be sworn in.
My name is Randall Reber. I have a little experience with
Hold on one second, man. You just got to get sworn in
Can you
first.
spell your name, please?
REBER.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. Okay. So the first thing I want to point out is that when the Wawa was approved, it was designed for tractor trailers to come through there so they can pull up and unload gas. So it is possible that on 10 o'clock Saturday morning, when they have a full load of cars, somebody's going to try and deliver 7,500 gallons of gasoline to that station. Okay, it is right at the end of the apron, so there has to be access in from Pine Grove Road. Okay, that was set up so the headlights from the truck, if they delivered in the evening, didn't shine on the cars at West Trenton Avenue. I really consider the buffering at West Trenton Avenue minimal. I don't know what, like, he asked earlier about the decimal levels for the vacuums. What hours do the vacuums run? Are they coin operated? How do they turn on? Anyhow, the buffering in the area is overgrown brush. It's not a planting, it's not a permanent planting, it's just something that wasn't bulldozed over. Okay, I think that you really need to look at cars turning left from Pine Grove to get to the Wawa currently and how they're going to impact both the vacuums and the lanes. I agree with you, by the way, that I don't understand why they can't turn left out of the wet lane, come back around and get in the dry lane, why everything has to go clockwise. I really do think traffic is going to be a mess, and people are turning left. The traffic light at Pine Grove, and the traffic light was put in expressly for Wawa, and they had to get a PennDOT permit because of that activity. Okay, well, I now know what a producer is. I also think that I have trucks of my own. I get soap in 25 and 55 gallon drums. I think that not having a loading zone or a way to unload is ridiculous. It's not going to be more than little Amazon boxes coming into this place. So anyhow, I think that's short-sighted, and that's what I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Hey, Matt, question for you. Height requirement in HC for a barrier or a fence in the front yard? 4 foot, 6 foot?
In the front yard,
Yeah.
on a commercial, in a commercial district, you can go up to 8 feet in
8
height.
feet, okay. So, Julie, hearing what he had said, would your clients be opposed to a condition of a 6 to 8 foot sound barrier along them vacuums, parallel with Pine Grove Road?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Any questions from the board further?
One quick follow-up on that Wawa crossover lane, and Mr. Reaver brought up a good point with a tractor trailer. Will that lane, with the addition of the vacuums, support a tractor trailer going down through there to make it around that curve to be able to exit the property? And we're talking about a tanker or tractor trailer. Is there enough distance there for a tanker to do that? Because right now, the way the property's set up, he could come down there and there's those center, the center, right where the inner vacuums would be, there's an opening of spaces that a tractor trailer can easily cut through there and then make his turn to go out towards Pine Grove Road. If you close those off with vacuums, he's now got to come straight down and go through the curves, basically make an S turn or make a complete C to come out to Pine Grove Road.
I pulled up the existing aerial. So there's not a straight shot today from the exit entrance here to Wawa to Pine Grove. So the tractor trailer, the fuel vehicle, if that's what it's doing, that's coming down here, it would still need to make that S turn to get out. So we believe we are keeping that same condition and we're not changing that access. We're not limiting it in any way.
How about delivery time? So when the soaps do get imported into the business, is it after hours?
It's typically at it's non-peak hours. It's, we like to make sure that all operations have kind of wrapped up by 8 p.m., but it would be towards the end of the day, correct? And it's not gallon tanks, it's typically, or tanks, it's smaller, sized deliveries of the soaps and detergents that's delivered on site, that's just handled with a hand truck.
Any other public comment at this time? Seeing none. Any other questions from the board? So then I would need a motion for or against this project with the condition of the 6 to 8 foot barrier if motion is granted.
All right, I got that. I move that the application of Flagship Pennsylvania OPCO LLC requesting the following variances from the following sections of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to allow a car wash that is permitted by conditional use. Do you want me to read these, or can I just say as previously read?
As previously read.
As previously read in by the chair, 1 through 6, with the additional condition that a 6 to 8 foot sound barrier be placed along the Pine Grove side of the vacuums. At the property located at 547 West Trenton Avenue, Morrisville, PA 19067, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
I'll second.
Motion by Aaron, second by Bill. Give me 1 second. Ronald? Randall, could you please come back up? My apologies for mispronouncing your name, sir.
All right.
I'm just,
Sir, out of an abundance of caution, what we want to do is we want to apprise you of what's called party status. It didn't appear that you were against the project, you just had voiced some concerns regarding the way it was currently laid out. But what we will do is we'll give you what's called party status, the opportunity to claim party status. And what that means is that when you present, you can present witnesses, you can cross-examine anybody you want, and then ultimately, if this is denied or granted, it would give you the right to appeal at Doylestown if you wanted to do so. So, sir, you had the opportunity to do that, and we're only doing this out of an abundance of caution because it didn't seem like you were opposed to the project. You just wanted to have your concerns, heard by the board.
I think that you should stop and think about what you previously approved, and the trucks making an S-turn, that's pretty difficult in there, okay? I have no interest in going to Doylestown County Court, any of that. If all of you don't see any problems here, hey, go for it, man. Okay, I think it's ridiculous. It's just, I'm a common sense guy to give you simple answers for problems. You don't want my help, then say, that's cool, but we're going forward.
we totally understand and we appreciate your comments,
Yeah.
sir, but as part of, if this is granted today, this will have to go through the township engineer and traffic engineer, and they'll do a full overview of the traffic circulation as part of the land development. So
Yeah.
there will be other meetings, if this is granted today, that you can go and raise your concerns to as well.
Yeah, whatever. I just think you should remember that your truck traffic and trying to get around, I wouldn't want to be one of the drivers in the truck on a Saturday morning when that Wawa is full of gas customers trying to get out of there and those vacuums are lined up or in use. I wouldn't want to be one of those customers.
Understood.
I mean, one of those drivers.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
For the record, can we get his address, please?
Yeah, you know what? The other thing I want to say is I forgot to mention dryer noise. You have a dryer at the end of this
There's
thing.
been a motion and a second. I mean, now
Right.
you
We don't
take
have
more
public comment
testimony,
anymore.
we can't do that, though.
Okay.
Yeah, if you did hear the board, there was a condition for a 6 to 8 foot sound barrier to help with
On
that
Pine
noise.
Grove Road, right.
Correct.
But what about the people on West Trenton, Wellington Woods, Rock Run, Court, those poor people?
There's no vacuums proposed on that side, sir. The only vacuums are proposed on Pine Grove Road.
I know, but how does the noise travel?
Sir, respectfully, sir, we're not taking testimony at
Okay.
this time.
All right, so I have a motion by Aaron, a second by Bill. Chris, can you call the board?
Bill? Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, appreciate your time.
So moving on to petition number 2, Fairless Defense LLC, 1900 South Pennsylvania Avenue, Morrisville, PA, 19067, tax map parcel 13047-088-001, zoned RD3, requesting the following variances to permit the construction and use of an indoor shooting range from Section 209, attachment to permit a front yard setback of 25 feet where 35 feet is required. 2, from Section 209, 32-4C4, to permit the use in the riverfront district. 3, from Section 209, 42H28, to permit 21 parking spaces for applicants' use when 66 parking spaces are required. And 4, from Section 209, 44, to permit a setback of 48 feet from top of bank relative to Biles Creek.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before we begin, I have several exhibits I'd like to mark for today's proceedings. ZHB1, application for zoning ordinance appeal, along with the accompanying statement and support. ZHB2, proof of publication of Bucks County Courier Times. ZHB3, pictures of the property. ZHB4, proof of posting of the property. ZHB5, notice of the application of tonight's hearing. ZHB6 is a site plan, and I also have marked for today's purposes as A1, the certification of service to the required property owners with proof that it was mailed regarding tonight's meeting as to the date and time.
So
Thank-
moved.
Sorry, thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Browndoff, do you need a minute? Okay, thank you. Good evening, Chelsea Jackman from Begley, Carlin, and Mandio tonight here on behalf of the applicant, which is Fairless Defense LLC. The owners behind me, that's William Benscooter, as well as the project surveyor this evening is James Oakes from Tri-State Engineers. So we are here tonight, as Mr. McTeague said, seeking 4 variances for tax parcel 13-047-088-001. That's 1900 South Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're in the RD3 district, which, as you all know, is probably the most restrictive zoning district in Falls Township as it relates to accepted uses. We're proposing to develop out, and here we go with this pointer, right, this area right here, which is 3.39 acres. I think most recently this particular property was used as a towing yard, and Mr. Benscooter currently owns a business in the township and is looking to expand. He's at 914 Trenton Road, Suite 4 in Fairless Hills, where it gets its name, Fairless Defense. And he's looking to, he's seeking these 4 variances in connection to expanding the business, but to add an indoor shooting range as part of the business a little bit further down the road. So the first plan would be obviously to come here and hopefully get approved for these 4 variances, move into the business, and then a little bit later down the road seek to construct an addition so that he could put that shooting range in. And it would include all the state-of-the-art sort of pieces of it that would dampen sound and really just be a great place for responsible, law-abiding citizens to come and better learn how to use their firearm. In terms of the RD3 district and going to the variances, first one being I guess not the first one, but to permit the proposed use of target shooting range in the Riverfront District, and that's from Section 209-32.4C4. This subject parcel has had a history of non-conforming uses. This particular use is narrowly tailored to address the highly restrictive zoning district of RD3. This shooting range proposes a more appropriate, better, hopefully long-term use consistent with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. Fairless Defense is established, as I stated, already in the township and has been there for about 3 years, and is seeking to expand that firearm sales to include things like training and the opportunity to practice shooting at an indoor gun range. It will operate entirely indoors. There's no outdoor component being proposed. And like I said, with sound attenuation to contain the noise and ensure public safety with no adverse impact on his neighbors or the community in general. So the development can and will be accomplished without any sensitive environmental disturbances to FEMA. I wonder if I can go back here. or no, I'm sorry, go forward here. Just a copy of the plan, having any disturbances related to the FEMA 100-year floodplain, steep slopes, woodlands, or any other protected features. So this being the zoning enabling step to be followed by land development approvals and working with the township as needed. So he's committed to developing and maintaining the property to the exceptionally high standard that he has been in the township for the past couple of years. With shooting, like I said, activities indoors and, again, sound mitigation features included. We're seeking a variance to permit a front yard setback of 25 feet where 35 feet is required from Section 209A, that's through the attachment, and to permit the reduction of the required 66 parking spaces to the 21 proposed. So Mr. Ben Scooter can speak a little bit more to this, but he's able to share that at most he has 10 people coming into this business at a time, and that is the absolute most with 4 employees. So by adding a gun range which has approximately 8 ranges, he's going to be able to comply with parking with no issue whatsoever, and that would be the absolute most. Typically, not every single lane is filled, but and so therefore the 66 spaces would not be needed. And then lastly, to permit a setback of 45 feet from the top of the bank of Biles Creek, the Delaware River, where 100 feet is required. And that just is due to the specific characteristics of that property being there already. In talking about gun ranges and this particular sort of activity, obviously safety is paramount. When I was discussing coming before you all and saying, these are the kinds of things that you're going to be asked, I said, tell me a little bit about the security and the safety. And I said, let me ask it this way. How many times have police ever been called out to your business? None. How many times have you ever had to engage police on anything? None. And they said, actually, we just had a Pennsylvania State Police audit and our result was flawless. He's operating a safe, responsible business, looking to expand. And one of the things that I asked him was, obviously, there's a very large law enforcement component as it relates to firearms, and he said that he was looking to have some sort of relationship with the local police to offer them the ability to come in, practice shooting, and do that as sort of a community partner and being a good neighbor. So with that, I'm going to call Mr. Ben Scooter to sort of affirm, if it's okay with the board, I'll do sort of a hybrid of colloquy as well as listening questions as to the nature of his business, and then Mr. Oakes can go through the plan. Would that be okay? Thank you. Come on up, you're going to get sworn in. I'll stand up.
Please stand now.
She has it.
Oh.
Is that on,
Could you
Chelsea?
State your name and spell it, please.
Sure. William Benscooter, Benscoter.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Mr. Ben Scooter, so everything, we'll start with the colloquy component. Everything that I've shared with the board thus far, you've heard?
Yes.
And is there anything that you take issue with or that I got wrong that I've shared with the board this evening?
No, that was correct.
Is there anything that you want to add that you think the board should know by way of sort of the plan moving forward and what you hope to see here in the future?
No, I would just like to continue doing business like we are now.
Okay.
And continue to grow.
And would you like to adopt my statements tonight as if they were your testimony and as if I'd asked you those questions yourself?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go through a little bit further just to color in the outline of what I've given. Can you tell the board, you've been in Falls Township at Fearless Defense for 3 years, correct?
Yeah, about 3 years.
And it's your plan to expand this business, to add in a shooting range, and that's really to kind of become a more full, rounded, well-rounded firearms facility, fair to say?
Correct. That's just the additional component.
And the component with regards to teaching, because right now you just do sales, is that right?
That's correct.
And you want to add in the safety component, training, as well as the sort of bridge to law enforcement as well,
Sure.
correct?
Yeah, I would definitely love to work with law enforcement for them to use the facility.
And but you look at tonight as the first step of what will ultimately be a semi-long process because you want to get there, right?
Correct.
And when I say get there, move into that facility and then start adding on the land development component, correct?
That's right.
And we're just here tonight because we want to get it all, for lack of a better term, get it all done here now so that you can move forward without any more hiccups.
That's correct.
Okay. In terms of the plans for construction. Do you have any timeline that you can share with the board at this point, other than to say we're taking it piece by piece?
Right now, we're moving one step at a time. We want to get it all laid out, and obviously look to do it as soon as possible.
But you just want to get in there first?
Right, correct.
Sounds good. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to tell the board while you're under oath and before I go to Mr. Oakes?
No, I just appreciate being here and you guys listening to the proposal.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call Mr. Oakes at this time. You can just step aside.
Could you state your name and spell it, please?
What's that?
State your name and spell it, please.
James, James Oakes, Oakes.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And again, I'll ask the board's direction. Mr. Oakes has been recognized as an expert in civil surveying. I'd ask for a stipulation at this time, or I'm happy to go through his qualifications. Mr. McTague?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Mackey gave me a thumbs up, and for the record. Okay. So, Mr. Oakes, you've been recognized as an expert in professional surveying. So, with regard to this property, can you tell the board, as the plan's up on the screen, just a little bit about the current features of the site, the existing features?
The front right-of-way is unique, and why one of the requests is for the setback as the jog in that front line, which was from not only PennDOT mapping, but also previous subdivision a lot of years ago, that will be included in our notes, in the general notes of our reference documents. So based on where they want to add the shooting range, that was part of one of the requests. And then, of course, Biles Creek behind it, and the FEMA floodplain, which was delineated on a previous survey, which creates that rear yard setback request.
And can you tell the board a little bit about the dimensions of the proposed addition with regards to the gun range?
That it will be the required minimum, for him to build those ranges at the yardages needed for the typical gun range.
And everything that I previously stated to the board with regards to disturbances to the FEMA area that you can see sort of plan north up on the
Yes.
screen. Is that accurate, that there will be no disturbances regarding those things?
Right, what's right there shown.
Okay. In terms of the sort of, and you kind of went through it, but odd site characteristics of the property, you indicate that the creek being right there. Can you tell the board a little bit more about what makes this property a little bit difficult to develop?
Just with the setback requirements for both the buffer from the floodplain and that right-of-way frontage. That creates kind of a unique situation where you only have so much room to do anything there.
And so that's why we're requesting that particular setback.
Yes.
In terms of the use, you're aware that an indoor shooting range in the RD3 district is not permitted, correct?
Correct.
At this point, as we sit today, and as Mr. Van Scooter just indicated, we're not looking to develop it today, tomorrow, or in the very near future. Accurate?
Correct. Yes, we would obviously, if we were granted approval, would go through the land development process and, comply with the requirements that would go with that, as well as addressing any stormwater issues. They would be addressed at that time as well.
In your professional opinion, is this an appropriate use, granting these variances to allow for a productive and essentially converting a site that has a history of non-conforming uses? Does this fit this area and this use?
I think it does, yes.
And you would agree that it creates no detriment to the neighbors, to the community, or to the public at large?
No, I don't believe it would.
Okay. And would you also agree that this is a logical and beneficial adaptive reuse for a property in the township in a very restrictive zoning district?
Yes.
Okay. And are all of these opinions to a professional degree of certainty with regards to professional surveying?
Yes.
Excellent. I don't believe I have anything further by way of questioning. Is there anything else that you think the board should know before they consider this request for the 4 variances we're seeking?
No, I think we've stated our case.
Okay. he said it best. We've stated our case. We're open to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board at this time? I see none. Anything from the township?
Just one question. Is this going to be limited to just pistols, or will you have rifles there as well?
Rifles as well, Mr. Ben Scooter indicated.
Thank you.
Any public comment at this time? I see none. So I would need a motion for or against this.
I'll move that the application of Fairless Defense LLC requesting the following variances from the following sections of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to permit the construction and use of an indoor shooting range. 1, Section 209, attachment to permit a front yard setback of 25 feet where 35 feet is required. 2, Section 209-32.4C4 to permit the use in the riverfront district. 3, Section 209-42.H28 to permit 21 parking spaces for applicants' use when 66 parking spaces are otherwise required. And 4, Section 209-44 to permit a setback of 48 feet from top of bank relative to Biles Creek at the property located at 1900 South Pennsylvania Avenue, Morrisville, PA 19067, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
I have a motion by Aaron. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Chris. Chris, can you call the board?
Bill?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.
With that being said, that will conclude tonight's meeting. Everyone have a good night.
Motion to adjourn.